Alrighty, hello folks, and good morning. So today we are going to talk about Heaven Generals and how to deal with them. So there's going to be a total of, I believe, 12, is it 12 or 13? I don't know, something along those lines, Heaven General fights in this game. Basically, they're going to be endgame bosses that, well, are going to be dropping a lot of unique weapons for you. Generally, that's the main thing that you're going into those fights for. For example, stuff like the Sagara over here, where they're going to just have a bunch of extra stats on them, and generally speaking, they're going to be some of the better stuff in their particular categories. Bear in mind, this is nothing that you particularly need to beat the game. These are mostly just kind of like show-off trophy weapons and what have you. But it's kind of cool if you can get a hold of one or two of them through a playthrough. Anyway, when it comes to these fights, they're all... Well, they're not exactly made equal, but they all have a few general rules that you can follow here. Actually, just to give you an idea, if you are kind of curious about where to get a hold of these guys, they're kind of scattered about all over the dang place. Like, some are in Pirate's Graveyard, some are in Farumpa Wildwood. Like, right here, we got Spear Lady on level 8. We got Archer Lady over here on 14, and then we have the Blowgun and Knife Guy over here on the Central Garden area. So, what you need to know for these fights is that basically trying to win them directly is going to get you slapped pretty readily. For all intents and purposes, you can see this as a reverse of the new XCOM situation. Your surprised Pikachu face when suddenly XCOM shows up and you're the humblest little sectoid. That's basically what you're looking for in this particular situation, where you need to find a way to essentially deal with the initial onslaught without losing your team. We'll get to the specifics of this in a moment, but there's a few things they want to pay attention to. For one thing, every one of them is going to be running particular elements. Unfortunately, this is one of the few cases where you can't actually use scout mode for whatever reason. I'm assuming it's mostly like it just couldn't store two versions of the same map or something. But either way, when you go into these fights, it helps to have an advantage. So like in this case, I know that many of the units are going to be running water, and many of them are also going to be running earth, so I've gone ahead and stacked a few in that particular direction. Additionally, a few of them are running fire. I mean, in many cases, this is going to be just as useful for defense as much as offense. Usually, you want to try to focus down the leader first in these situations. While it is a kill-all map, leaving the leader alive is going to leave you with trouble. But additionally, I would like to introduce you to the two units that are going to help you out more than anything else when it comes to these. See, eventually, sure, you can stat dump to the point that you can potentially one-shot these guys, but that is going to take hours upon hours of grinding. There's a far easier way to deal with the initial onslaught that many will overlook, and that's going to be a combination of your Cyclops and your Griffin here. Reason for this is essentially bulk and their ability to continuously harass enemy units. So in the case of something like the Cyclops there, being able to bypass defenses to inflict a stun anyway, being able to just take a ton of hits, on top of the Griffin just having a ton of movement, being able to move around wherever the hell you want them to. These are going to be really useful tools for getting past these fights. So what I'm going to do here is essentially start off the fight by breaking a few props, giving us a few extra cards to play with. That's mostly an extra added benefit. But we're going to adapt our strategy based on what we can collect on the way to the fight itself. The main issue with these fights is going to be this right here. You essentially have a ton of Alpha Strike potential that comes off these teams. They're going to come in with Umbra. I believe in some cases they have a alternative to Umbra that's basically the same thing. Either way, if you're going in, like in this case, these are completely base stat units. If you're going with the completely bottom of the barrel units, you're looking at roughly in the ballpark of like 1800 set damage against everybody, unless they're divine, in which case they just don't exist anymore. Either way, this is going to be a nuke move that they apply every few rounds. It's going to be fairly hefty in terms of how much it does. Being a 60 MP move, this means that unless you're actively hunting them down currently, usually it'll take them a little bit of a while to charge up. On top of this, though, they'll usually come in with a few units carrying orbs. This is anywhere from 2 to, I believe, on the highest end, there's 6 units that are carrying orbs. Now, depending on how you're approaching this fight, there's a few tricks up your sleeve. If, for example, you're looking to go entirely the no-in-cap route, just bring a bunch of knights. Honestly, a lot of these fights are so heavily countered by knights with, even roughly opposing or neutral elements, that it's going to be a pretty hefty way to deal with it. Just don't run Divine Knights, because Umbra is dark. Anyway, mostly because that 90% damage reduction, I mean, it's still 90%. Hoplites and Knights are going to be your best way to just tank these things outright. If you need caster variants in the meantime, go ahead and throw in your Patriarchs and Matriarchs. But again, I'm assuming most folks are not going to be running for no in-caps. I'm assuming in most cases folks are just going to be going in attempting to get their stuff for their collection log, right? So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and throw our low defense, high health units over in this direction. We're going to have our Cyclops and our Griff head over in that direction. They've got a few jobs that we need them to do. So we're going to have this guy, he's going to be spamming debuffs pretty much left, right, and center. We've got our Griffin that's going to be doing most of the tanking for us. And additionally, we're going to use some of the items that we've gotten along the way here to go ahead and do some boon of swiftness over on that guy. Just go ahead and get him running. We're going to try to keep the rest of the team over here to the left, just kind of vaguely out of their way. The idea here is just to make sure that they see those large, high-health units and target them first. And then from there, we have a few rounds in order to try and pressure and isolate their leader before anything else. Something to bear in mind is that for the most part, their teams are roughly going to be what I consider to be third-tier units. So, like, first tier would be your basic soldiers, second tier would be your blues, third tier would be essentially your reds and stuff. Fourth tiers would be a lot of your kind of advanced reds with better skills, and then fifth tiers are usually the big scary birds and whatnot. But anyways, we want to accomplish a few things. We want to make sure that our heavies are out in front, just kind of ready to absorb hits as much as we need them to. We're going to go ahead and move the rest of our units, like I said, over there to the left. And then additionally, we're going to have another backup element here in the form of our fairy. So, being that these units, at least for the most part for their teams, are not going to be immune to charm, you can definitely abuse things like fairies and angel knights to make sure that you can potentially turn their entire team around on themselves. Additionally, if you're running some ninjas with poison arrows, that's really going to help a lot. They dedicate 2 of their slots to healing units, and due to the fact that they are doing that, this means that if we can overwhelm their healing, we can basically waste 2 of their team slots there. Anyway, so we went ahead and we saw a magic card spawned over here, so we'll have our center Valkyrie go ahead and essentially switch her priorities over to being a caster in this case. So I'm already seeing a route where we picked up a spell card there. There's a crit card over there. We'll just probably circle her in that direction. And then additionally, we've brought along a Terror Knight in order to spam a lot of sleep moves. So, like I mentioned earlier, we have our heavies running out in front. We want to make sure that they're just sitting there being the most tempting targets they can be. Given they've got their pretty high health pools, we can fairly safely assume that they're going to be able to survive these initial hits. But bear in mind that they are going to be taking quite a decent bit of punishment here. So this Umbra, just so you know, it's something that has a tendency to be really darn powerful whenever it hits you. Basically, even with high defenses, that particular move is going to be one that you see a lot of folks potentially losing their entire party to. So just bear in mind that, yes, it is worth having a sacrifice unit out in front for that particular purpose. Again, I personally like Griffins just because they can be wherever the hell you want them to be. Now, you have a few different options in terms of dealing with how you want them to survive. If you want them to potentially survive a little bit longer, get rid of the ease, or get rid of the frighten here. If you're okay with them going down a little bit sooner, it's definitely worth, like if you're running a support lord here, just spell charging onto the Cyclops, having him spam as many debuffs as possible. But either way, the eventual goal here is that we move our heavies over to the center. As you see, they're just going to serve as a lightning rod here. So they're going to go ahead, barely survive all of that stuff. They're going to make their way into the center. And then, ideally, we're going to try to move them through the back row. So the Cyclops is going to go towards the center of the party so that he can spam his howl. And then we're going to have the Griffin running along to the back. The reason that we do all of this is to make sure that we can ideally keep... Let's kind of keep all of their units going and running in opposite directions here. The more chaos that you can create, the better it'll go. So we're going to have our ninja go over here to flank along the side. We want her to start spamming poison wherever she can to confuse the healing as much as possible. We're going to attempt to do some long-range heals on our Griffin here. Just kind of keep them in the fight as long as we can, and then once they go down, hopefully our knight is up there at that point. Once that knight is in position... actually, you know what? I don't want that card on you. You're going to go and... I guess you're just going to go in this direction. Just bear in mind that while the Griffins will will essentially be here, you know, the griffins or whatever heavies you decide to use. Octopi will actually also work pretty well for this. While they are going to be very good at tanking all of these hits, you don't necessarily need to always keep them up and functioning at all times. Just something to bear in mind. But also you want to make sure not to keep anybody nearby them. As much as it may seem tempting to use them as a direct shield, don't try to move units directly nearby them all the time. It'll just cause them to get a hit by Umbra. But again, this is kind of our weird initial raid into their lines here, so to speak. So we use a combination of the Spell Strike Powder on the Cyclops to spam poison. We use Sleep on our Cudgel Terror Knight over there in order to repeatedly make sure that that he's getting sleep wherever he can. So any kind of poisons, sleeps, whatever we can get, that would be ideal. We're going to continue having our Valk over here set up. Again, she's primarily going for those earth units in the back. Just due to being a sword build, she's going to hit the earth units particularly hard. We're going to have Elrig moving on in this direction. Not really too much that he can do for now. If you have knights with shot grenades, by the way, it's also worth considering using them. Simply for the old, you know, grenade punching type of situation. And additionally, as if I didn't say additionally enough times, if you do have the means to do so, attempt to use a stinky set user. You know, ideally again out of range of your two tank units over here. So like right here, I have Kashra running the stinky set, and she's going to attempt to soften these guys up a little bit. If units are taking enough damage, in many cases they will seemingly attempt to retreat backwards, which does open up the lines a little bit, so that could give us a little bit more play down the line. They're going to be very distracted with that Griffin, so that gives us some opportune flanking situations. Eventually, the goal of that Griffin is to do what he was designed for in the story, and hunt down those clerics. You may notice I picked up a card with him earlier that would allow him to make use of both his Dark Element as well as a crit on his Health Steal move as soon as the fear wears off, in order to essentially crit Health Steal clerics over and over, allowing him to functionally heal himself. He carries 2 healing items just to kind of keep himself functional up to that point, but that's a solid way to think about this stuff. You know, sometimes it goes better, sometimes it goes worse, but either way, we'll go ahead and go over here. His fear wore off. I could go for the full heal here. At the same time, we can see that we might potentially heal a 500 in this case, so we'll just attempt to roll for the crit here. Nice big meaty 502, and that'll keep him running for the time being, allowing him to save that heal item for whenever he might need it later. Alright, so next with Azelston, I don't believe he's rolled his evade yet, but we're going to move over to the side here. So the thing that I mentioned earlier about those Heaven General bosses and their ability to hit stuff particularly hard, it's worth noting at this point that when it comes to clumping up your units, generally you don't want to do that, but like you saw over here, when it comes to the Cyclops and the Griffin being way closer targets, more often than not they'll probably end up going for those instead, so I'm kind of counting on that to some degree. But also bear in mind that, yeah, if they decide to target your entire party, you can be stuck in a little bit of a situation here. We'll see if that ends up coming up. I just noticed parking them a little bit too close to the left there, unfortunately. There we go, the Jewel the Avatar coming in there for that dodge. Again, 20% doesn't seem like much, but it's always one of those things that's eventually going to pay off. And, you know, when it pays off in the form of just completely avoiding a finisher or something along those lines, it can be a pretty big deal. Something to bear in mind, by the way, Umbra does not count as a spell for the purpose of reflection. There may be different versions of this for different stuff, but basically it doesn't count as a spell, so reflection would not cause them to instantly delete themselves. If you are, for example, fighting one of the bosses, like the guy that carries the Sagara down in Palace of the Dead, like any of the big casting variants that are able to hit you like an absolute truck, it is absolutely worth carrying Reflection, because in many of those cases they hit so dang hard that they can't instantly delete themselves. So just something to bear in mind. Just pay attention to the enemy that you're fighting, so to speak. Anyway, our main focus here is to get a lot of our heavy hitters around this Heaven General here in order to attempt to rush him down all at once. So let's see, right here, we don't have anything available on you just yet, and I'm a little bit worried about his positioning. Not to mention, he's actually not one of the heavy hitters that we're going to be using, so we're going to go ahead and move him up in this direction, pick up a crit card, and have him attempt to go for some snipes later. Divold over here is currently doing fine as he is. He is here to put stuff asleep, and so he will continue attempting to do so. So we'll go ahead and throw that guy to sleep, and then move his way on forward to attempt to drop some fear on something. And then we'll pick up another crit over here on our Valkyrie to continue our little setup charge here. Go ahead and buffer with a dodge just in case, since many of those ice units do like to try and track her down. Anyway, from here, it depends entirely on what you've managed to get up to this point. Like, I have this fairy here. If they manage to roll their meditate enough times to get their virtuous, this is when the virtuous would start coming into play. Currently, it has not happened, so we're going to go ahead and leave that as is. Anyway, we see that we've got a few units with turns coming up. Let's see. You're not. We can't inflict charm on these guys because they are death-proof. But if we can find any, I think it's going to be their healers off in the back row that are currently having turns coming up. So we're going to attempt to roll for a charm on this guy, see if we end up getting it. That's perfectly fine. Again, if you can get something like a Cyclops up there, they're basically passively going to be throwing out stuns every now and then, and that's their primary purpose, and then their secondary purpose is to go do pretty much anything else. So we'll go ahead and move our invisible princess up forward, kind of continue pressuring on in that direction. They're going to get rid of some of that poison, just kind of wasting their turn there. We're going to start moving our knight in this direction, just go for a little bit of a heal on you. I mentioned earlier that we want to use some of our heavy hitters. Now, when I'm talking about heavy hitters, I'm not talking about stats-wise. Our two best hitters right now on this boss are going to be our knight, Elrig over there, as well as Anna, our Valkyrie, just due to having Papillon Reel, which will help them out tremendously. Anyway, I want Killdozer over here to be living up to her name, so we'll go ahead and throw out a little bit of a charge in her direction. You're going to go ahead and go over here, attempt to poisonify this guy. There we go. Drop a nice little heavy poison in that direction. And from here, we have a lot of our units where we want them to be. So there we go, there's that Wendigo coming in. We've got our punchy guy that's hopefully going to be going in and attempting to deal with the casters. Fist units are going to be particularly solid at this roll, just due to their long-range punches and whatnot. And in fact, he actually should be getting his Howling Rage right at the same time that this Fizz-Up showed up. So this should allow us to drop a nice big happy number on this one. Not really one of the casters he's meant to be hunting, but it's a nice little opportunity. Anyway, there's that Overwhelm as they decide once again to go after our Cyclops. This is again why we bring them along. It's just they look at those big meaty numbers by comparison and they don't even care that they can hit clumped up units, because the amount that they would hit on those particular ones is, generally speaking, at least it appears to be a lot more than they would have hit on that, or rather the clump would have been less than it was to hit on the big meaty bird or Cyclops or what have you. Good coffee. Anyway. So at this point, we take advantage of that little happy situation to go get our revivers into position. So we'll go ahead and resurrect you, which will then hopefully drop a stun in that area. If not, it might be worth going to collect that skill up card. But at least we got a hobble off in that situation. We're going to have him throw around some sweaty palms, see if he can land himself a lucky leaden. In the meantime, though, he'll go set himself up with a skill card, maybe redirect some of them off to the side. They end up stopping the fairy. That is perfectly fine. I forgot to put Steadfast on him, didn't I? Well, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us. Anyway, let's go ahead and go here. See what kind of numbers we're looking at, because that would be the ideal shot over there, hitting on that earth weakness, or hitting on that earth unit, rather. I think we'll go over here. Just go ahead and see about landing a lucky crit on this guy. So maybe throw him backwards a little bit. Got the knockback, not the crit though. Bit of a bummer, but it's fine. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, we mostly have them give or take surrounded at this point. So we need to try and start getting our Papillon Reels off in this direction. And yes, that does include the fact that she's able to do summons for free. So right here, it's not ideal, but whatever, it's a crit. Or at least a high chance of a crit, so we'll just go ahead and throw that off in that direction. We get a Wrathful Strike here. It's going to hit him on a weakness, but she's not exactly what you'd call a heavy hitter, so It is what it is. You primarily want to be using those kinds of moves on these bosses, though, because regular hits will cause their MP to regenerate, so I probably shouldn't have taken a regular swing there. But this is fine. We'll deal with it as we do. We don't want him to get healed, so we'll attempt to go for another sleep over there for that one. Man, oh man, that 30%, though. This is why I love it. This is why I love it. They just keep units out of the fight. It's a really, really effective disruption tool. All right. So, we go ahead and get our conserve off on you. Looks like we're going to be just out of range to get our Resurrect 2 off. But this is fine. See how we end up looking on you. Yeah, 130 is nothing terribly impressive. We are going to go ahead and Spell Charge Diebold, though, to see about getting him his Pressure Whirl. Maybe we'll go about this all a little bit of a different way. We'll see what we do. Anyway, we do have an opening right here to go and apply another one of these big hitting moves using our Advent Sign with our Combat Fork to go and slap this guy. I forget if I ever mentioned this, by the way. The deal with the fork, it's not meant to be anything like particularly fancy or whatnot. Basically, it's just funny that it's a fork. That's all it really comes down to. Anyway, we use our lightning to go hit on that guy's water and apply poison at the same time, so that should see him completely dealt with. We've got the Cyclops that will be back up on their feet next time Health Pidgey gets to act. We need to get one of our revivers over to the bird so that he can continue pressuring that cleric, though. So we'll get to that when we get to it. Technically, lost Health Pidgey over there, which is fine. We have another backup plan for the backup plan. We have 3 other revivers that are standing by to get that particular job done. In the meantime, though, I would like you to go ahead and just punch this dude, see if you can at least put him down a little bit lower. If he doesn't have a finisher, there's a decent chance that he'll attack and then get himself counter-killed. So I'll just apply that in that direction. We got some birds coming in, doing their usual bird thing. Ninja goes down. This is acceptable. Next up, though, we want to... Let's see. What's Pressure Whirl going to look like on... where's the dude guy at? Pressure will look like a 293 in this case. Pulse will be about a 600, but I don't think she can get close enough to make that happen. This is fine. We'll go ahead and use her to get our ninja back up then. Move her over to collect one of our cards over here. And then we need to ideally get our clumpy units clumped up back together. So, here's the plan. You're going to go here. You've got Steel Stance. We're going to attempt to do the Steel Stance punch here. So 240, she wouldn't survive that, because Steel Stance doesn't do too much to help. It's not as good as Phalanx in this case. Would get a 133 off doing that. I don't think she can make the shot from here, because that's a direct line-of-sight violation. So let's go ahead and just kind of throw this out here for the hell of it. If it happens, it happens. Just free damage. Go ahead and collect up this card. Due to the nice bonus on her blowgun, as well as the elemental advantage, she's going to be pretty solid for that particular roll. Let's see, we get a 362 off this. We can get a 600 if we're applying that one, which, as nice as it is, won't necessarily be enough here. But I do want him to heal a little bit. So let's see what we can get. That's okay. Whatever. If we can just prevent him from moving anywhere, we'll just go ahead and take a nice little happy health leech here. Nothing, again, terribly fancy, but it'll work for the time being. Alright, and there he goes. He goes for the attack. He gets the counter kill. And then that's that problem sorted out. So if you do see a unit that's almost finished off next to... Like, if you see a melee unit that's going to get himself finished off, it's another one of those cases that it's probably worth pursuing. Anyway, let's see. We can get a nice Grand Cross on you. Grand Cross on you. No big elemental bonuses in this big fear bundle, unfortunately. If we could get over to this one, that would be a nice happy slap, but for the time being, we'll consider this good enough. Although, it's like 100 extra, but a whole lot of extra MP. That's fine. Rolled a very lucky crit there, so that's acceptable. Thankfully, they're too worried about the Frighten and won't be attempting to heal their guy. We'll make that happen. See if we can maybe have the space on hand to pivot into a summon spam here. This guy's probably going to resist it pretty good, but he's just barely out of range to make that functional. Alright, in that case, we're going to use you to burn down this one over here. I'm thinking... Actually, wait a minute. No, she's a little bit out of range. So we're going to go ahead and use her to burn down this cleric, get some of his healing out of the way, maybe make some of our debuffs stick a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and use our little soft target SMG over here to burn down that guy. Griffin's looking a little worse for wear, but we should be able to get them right back up soon. So let's see. For the time being, though, we're going to want to revise in multiple directions. I've got Elrig coming up. He's able to get Health Pidgey back up. So you're going to go here. He should be able to act before the Griffin does, so on kind of the plan B side, we've got options to get him up using a Blessing Stone. Ideally, he just gets his Conserve MP, we get our Revive 2, and kind of go from there. Anyway, the AI burned themselves out of MP, so they just went ahead and go for the Stick Smack there, got themselves slapped around a decent bit. Anyway, Health Pidgey does the Resurrect. We do the Resurrect, we do the people getting up on their feet thing. Probably go for the Fairy, actually, because the Fairy would give us a lot of good tools here. See if you can go pick up that MP card over there, give you a little bit more regeneration. Not that you're really lacking it too much right now, but it just would be a potentially useful tool. Let's just go for that. Let's see. Yeah, Denim's acting long before the Griff will, so that's good. Thankfully, he's a very, very fast unit. Alright. So we've got her up on her feet, due to Resurrection giving you that extra MP. This means we basically have our guaranteed Virtuous, so we're going to go ahead and apply that virtuously. Let's see, we get these three over here, and roll it. See what kind of charms we end up getting. Only ended up getting one that time, but that's acceptable. You'll usually get at least one or two. Sometimes it goes way better than that. Some good coffee. Alright. Go for the ease, they get that charm removed. That's a bit of a bummer, but that is still their turn gone. Alright. So, let's see. You've got a Dark Blade on you. Who can you snipe with that? Are you acting soon? Let's see. Yeah, if we can get this one right here, it might be worth maybe going for a bit of a blowgun shot here. Let's see, that'll do 520. That would be nice, but oh well. Let's see, your turn's coming up soonish, your turn's coming up soonish. No chance of a crit on that, so probably not necessarily worthwhile. If we just go for something like this, it's not amazing, but it would put him with into close to 1,000. So it could allow for potentially setting up an easier kill on him, because again, he's going to be getting close to using his Umbra very soon here. We don't want to be taking that. So we're kind of on the clock right now. We want to be taking this guy absolutely as soon as possible here. We'll get to that when we get to it. Let's see what kind of tools they give us to play with. They go for the Mantis to go for the double attack. That's fine. Alright. Next order of business, let's see. Rage would do a 750. Howling would do a 750. We might be able to do a Howling from here, which pick up the Fizz. Probably if we had a crit, that would be absolutely perfect. We can just go ahead and Howling from this distance. There we go. Nice, perfect 1,000 there. Well, it was supposed to be 1,000, but whatever. Yeah, Howling Rage is a really, really solid move. I really don't see that advertised enough in terms of just being stupidly powerful. Alright, we get the whim off there. Everything's a whim away, as they say. Let's see if we can maybe set up a quick kill on Alicia over here. Go ahead and go for the Pressure Whirl, pick up our bag. Nice, a happy 582, and unfortunately, as if to put it out there's a little bit of a joke, he ends up dropping a luck card. Kind of a nice happy middle finger from the AI there. But yeah, as soon as you get these guys mopped up, like as soon as you get the leader taken out, the rest of these guys are a fairly standard kind of middle of the road mob, nothing too terribly fancy. So from there, you just kind of get your team back together. Generally, I would say unless you end up getting the item drop, it's not really worth actually completing the fight at that point. You would just go and reset. You have to pay Heaven's Fork every time you go into one of these locations, unfortunately, so I mean, you're already paying the cost. You might as well be getting something for it. You do have a chance to end up getting back the components for a fork, or I believe even a fork itself at the end of the fight. But really, it's the weapons themselves that are going to be the star of the show here. So if you can get those, that's what you want to be going for. Anyway. So that is about that. That's how you handle these fights. Just kind of distract with some heavier units. Use that to open up for a lot of debuff spam. Kind of keep the pressure on there, so to speak. If you're running a no incaps team, you're going to want to do a lot more preparation in terms of having your phalanx ready to go and stuff like that. Try to set up for more defensive elements and what have you. But if you are looking to do this just kind of quick and dirty, like personally, I don't like playing with Chariot, but I also really just... I personally find going for no end cap super annoying. So that's generally not something that I end up going for. Mostly because you'll end up, doing everything seemingly right, and then somebody gets shield bashed off a cliff, and it's like, yeah, but I don't care enough to reset. We can replace that guy. Why do we care? So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. That's about all I have time for here today. And yeah, y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care. Give this stuff a bit of a shot. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. And again, just so you know, these are going to vary in difficulty all over the place, but the overall concept of the Alpha Strike units and whatnot, that's really the kind of main thing that these guys do, you know? So yeah, if you can survive past that phase, if you can get the leader taken out, the rest of this is nothing you haven't dealt with up to this point. So yeah. Have yourselves a good one, and... Oh, shoot, one more note. This one didn't have it. A few of them will bring Necromancers for Condemn. You should probably be running a Cleric anyway. Just put the, anti-Condemn move on there, or put it on your Lord if that's what you're doing. But yeah, just so you know, that is technically a thing as well. So, alright. Now that I've gone and ended this thing like 20 separate times, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Have yourselves a good one. Thank you for stopping by, and take care.